I'm live. Who'da thunk it? What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV with some extra cheese for you late in the afternoon on Friday. Hope everyone's doing well. Just got done listening to Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur, who is done, I tell you, done talking about injuries until he has to. Didn't take long for him to catch that bug. Obviously, teams are not required to give out any kind of injury information until mandated by the league week one. So LaFleur asked about the several injuries that happened last night in the game in Canada, punted, and said, I'm not talking about any more injuries until week one. Man, I can't say I blame him. If you don't have to, why would you? Hello, everybody jumping in the chat here. Sean, it's a good question. Will EQ need to be put on IR since he'll be back in 4 to 6 weeks? If they do want to bring him back at some point, they will have to carry him on the 53. When they cut down to the 53-man roster, I suspect he will, A, be on it, and then B, the real question is, will they put him on IR, which would mean he would have to be out for 6 weeks, which could be, obviously an additional number of weeks past the original 4 to 6 week timeline that we've been given, or do they think he will be back sooner rather than later? And that meaning they won't put him on IR, but then they're keeping a roster spot for him. I think it's going to be a bit tricky for Brian Gutekunst trying to determine that. My hunch, I suspect, because it's a high ankle sprain, according to NFL Network, those do tend to linger, and the league is riddled with guys who have come back too early from high ankle sprains and then re-injured them. I would suspect that he will be on the 53 and then be placed on IR right away, and then be obviously a candidate for return later on in the year. Let it heal up completely. But that's just a hunch on my part. That's my guess as to how Brian will go about it. Boyle snagged the QB2 spot last night, right? Corey, no. He certainly made a case, certainly put himself into the conversation for the number 2 spot. But as LaFleur just said, still some practices left to go, still another game. I don't think he grabbed anything. Now, would he have made himself the favorite last night? I think that's fair. He certainly had the most productive outing of any quarterback not named Aaron Rodgers all throughout camp. So there's something to be said for that. But I think they'll use every bit of information. And as LaFleur just said, they'll come right down to the wire of when that decision has to be made. That's when they'll make the determination. Is Davis a lock now? I mean, as close as possible, right? I think, as LaFleur said, he carried over what he's been doing in practice into a game situation. He's been out for a long time, hit the ground running last night. If he can continue to do that in all phases, too, that's the thing. He wasn't just doing these, he obviously had a lot of plays from scrimmage, but he's also contributing on special teams, not only as a returner, but on coverage as well. He's asked to do a lot, and he has answered the bell. And if he continues to do so, I think he'll be on the 53. How many players can you use the IR designation on? Kevin, as many as you want. You can only bring back 2. That's the trick. Shepard will be on the active roster come week 1, Green Bay or not. Ooh, Matt, that's a bold proclamation. I'm not sure I agree with your police work there, but I do think he will he'll be on a squad, either practice or no. But I'm not sold that he'll be on the Packers 53 or someone else's. Inside linebacker need help. How about Mason Foster? I doubt it'd be Mason Foster, but I do think they'll definitely go out and get someone, whether by trade or wait for someone to get cut and use the waiver wire. There's zero doubt they got to go get somebody. Do you think there's any way Jamerson makes the roster? I think it's a long shot, Dean. Sorry I'm late. Hope you're having a Packer-tastic day. Jeezy, baby, what's up? Who's to blame for the big fiasco last night? That's above my pay grade. I would say everybody. I mean, the Packers said they were sending people days in advance. They didn't see this coming. The NFL knew that the configuration was different between the CFL and the NFL. They had to have known they were going to move that, the goalposts. No one foresaw that. I mean, come on. Gary looks lost playing outside linebacker. Your thoughts? I don't think he looks lost. I think he looks inexperienced. This is what I love. I love this. And this isn't directed at you specifically, but I love that people are like, why is Gary playing? Because he's playing a whole new position. He's being asked to stand up. He's asked to be dropped back in coverage. He's asked to do stunts and things that he's never been asked to do before. He doesn't look lost. He looks young and inexperienced, being asked to play a position he's never had to play before. The Gary hate, and I know, again, it's not directed at you specifically, but the desire to prove a hypothesis of what a terrible pick Gary was at 12 is just mind-boggling to me. What's up with Jimmy Graham? He's going on IR? I haven't seen that or heard that, unless that just broke in the last 30 seconds. I think he just hurt his finger. I love how people come in the chat and act like they know what they're talking about. Well, Tyler, they're allowed to have opinions. Nothing wrong with that. Has Crosby retained his roster spot? I think so. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe he has a really erratic week of practice, a bad preseason game against Kansas City, and they go with Ficken. I doubt that'll happen, but to my eyes, yes, Crosby has maintained his job. I wonder if Packers players get hurt disproportionately more than other teams. Thoughts? I can tell you 1,000,000,000% that is incorrect. The best resource to use is adjusted games lost over at Football Outsiders. Packers, for a number of years, were maybe in the top third, but last year they're right in the middle of the pack. Or 2 years ago, right in the middle of the pack. Last year, top third or whatever, but not even close. The Packers fans get so obsessed with this idea that they're always injured. Oh, blame the strength and conditioning staff, etc. You got to widen your gaze, people. You got to look at all 32 teams. Look what the Giants went through right that first week of camp. They went through just a litany of injuries. The Packers have a night where they get a couple guys injured, and it's, oh my God, the Packers are always injured. No, they play football. Everybody's injured. Everybody. The injury rate in the NFL is 100%. Is not giving any injury info whatsoever to anyone a bit much? It doesn't have to. Why would you? It's fine by me. Let's see. What did you think of Gary coming back after the first injury? It's hard to second guess the professionals who, the medical staff who obviously deemed it okay. And as anybody who's followed the Packers for any length of time knows, that they have one of the, if not the most conservative staff in the league when it comes to injuries, allowing people back on the field, getting people back on the field after injury, etc. So it's hard for me to say, oh, it was such a huge mistake. I was surprised, but yeah, I can't, I'm not going to second guess guys who know a hell of a lot more about what's going on with a player's injury than I do. Top 10 offense this year. Whoo, Saul. It's a bold proclamation. I hope you're right. Let's see. So we have Adams, Allison, Davis, Kumaro, and MVS looking good to me. I think they got some talent, no doubt about it. Oh no, Victor with a fancy football question. And Nags, PPR League, first overall, Saquon or Kamara, please and thank you. Oh, Barkley, 100%. More sacks this year, Gary or Fackrell, Gary. Is Kevin King starting week 1? Amigo, I have no idea. We'll probably get a much better idea of that this week. If he practices and is out there, then I think there's a good chance. If he goes another week without practicing, man, it'd be tough to see them turn around and then activate him for, like, say, 3 practices leading up to, or 2 practices leading up to that Thursday night opener. What players we thought would make the final roster in most danger of losing their roster spot other than Jamal Moore? Nobody leaps to mind, actually. I think there's like 40, 45 guys who are probably, on the roster at this point. And it's just about, figuring out the puzzle pieces that last kind of 10 or so spots. I do think if there was a guy that maybe, they would feel comfortable letting go of, maybe Mercedes Lewis, because of the fact that they have investment in Jay Sternberger, so they want to bring him along. Bob Tonyan is pretty clearly the second tight end. And then Jimmy, for whatever reason, who knows what's going on with the finger, but maybe they feel comfortable letting Lewis go. Although with the injury to Graham, maybe they want some veteran depth there. We'll see. Why do they like Kaiser so much? He was put in a hard situation. He made plays that were there. I thought he didn't look good. Oh, Katie, but you're referencing what LaFleur was talking about. No, I thought LaFleur was spot on. I mean, when, you're trying to be productive and you're playing with a hodgepodge of talent and, first down, you get a good run and you're in 2nd and 2, all of a sudden it gets called back and you're now in, 2nd and 15 or whatever, second and 20. That's a whole other world that you're living in as a quarterback. And it's much tougher to operate in that regard. Now, with that said, that's what Boyle's been dealing with, right? I mean, Boyle's been having to deal with that with the 3rd and 4th strings and then being put behind the 8 ball, etc. But for the most part, I thought LaFleur was pretty genuine there, and rightfully so. I think Kaiser was put in some bad spots last night. There's so much that goes into it. Quarterback is by far and away the most difficult position in all of professional sports. You're dependent on so much around you. Anybody who's watched me for any length of time knows I am no Kaiser fan. I would be the last one to be making excuses or apologies for Kaiser. That said, he was put in a lot of bad spots last night. It was really hard to expect much out of him when you're 2nd and 18 and you've got, 3 guys running crossers, 2 of them run into each other and one guy's completely blanketed. Well, then where do you go with the football? You got to try and make something happen. So you get outside the pocket and you get tackled. It's hard for me to get too worked up about that, Is Madison okay? Didn't he get hurt last night? Brad, he did get injured, but there's no information that I've seen on Madison. I'm hoping it's nothing serious because I think he's had a strong camp. He had a couple holding calls last night. So conveniently, the Raiders broadcast that we were watching didn't show either one of them, so I don't know how legit they were, but here's hoping he's okay because I think he will make this team. I think Goot has done a great job transforming this roster in a short amount of time, but still seems like a year away. Very excited for the season, though. I think that's a fair assessment, Kevin. I just think with the coaching staff and the new offense, it's really hard to get a gauge on what this team is going to be in any way, shape, or form, especially since we haven't seen any live reps in a game situation. And that's not to say that they've made a mistake there because very clearly they want to keep guys healthy, and I understand that thinking. But yeah, until we get some kind of idea of how this offense is going to operate and what it's going to look like, it's a great mystery. And I'm kind of excited by that, I got to admit. Christian, thanks for the super chat. Would you say Boyle is QB2 right now? I talked about this a little earlier ago. I don't think he's anybody's QB2 right now, but I do think he definitely vaulted into the lead. I do think he's undoubtedly in the conversation. And if you had to make the decision right now, there's a good chance he's QB2. But as LaFleur just said, you got a number of practices left and another preseason game. You can bet both of those guys are going to play quite a bit. And we'll see how that shakes out. But there's no doubt that was probably the most productive, best showing by any of the backups throughout all of camp and preseason. He got the start over Kaiser, so yes, Tanner, because they wanted to see him after playing him against 3rd and 4th stringers. They do this all the time. They do it every summer. Doesn't mean anything. What is your best and worst takeaway from yesterday's game? My best is that it's over. My worst is that I wish they'd never played it. Did the Cowboys price Blake too high? Oh, I don't think. The Cowboys are just signing their own. They're creating the market. The market was already crazy for inside linebacker, and that's what I was saying earlier this summer. Blake's paying attention. He knows what guys are getting signed for. The prices are going to go up. The market's going to go up. The Cowboys are just following, the trend. They didn't blow anything up. It's nothing crazy. That's just the going rate. That's the market, and it was always going to come down. It continues to come down to the fact that I have little doubt that the Packers will open up negotiations at some point this season. We'll try and make some kind of, advance, so to speak, maybe some kind of contract offer, but it's going to be Packers friendly. And it's going to come down to Blake and his representatives deciding whether, how much they want to play in Green Bay or go explore the market where he can undoubtedly make more money. And that's not a knock on Blake if he chooses to go someplace else, chooses to try and hit the market and strike it big, because he certainly will. A guy that productive, this much experience, yeah, if he has a good, solid year, what I expect he will, he'll be very productive once again. He hits the market, he's going to make bank. No doubt about it. Clark has to be the priority over Martinez as much as I love Blake. Kevin, there's zero doubt about that. And that's one reason why there's no way they're going to sign him to a market average deal. Do you agree that tackling was much improved yesterday? Well, Tanner, if you're taking that off of the headline at Packers.com, you got to watch and I think LaFleur just reiterated it just now. He conceded it was still poor in the first half, but once they quote unquote calmed down, whatever that means, it got better in the second half. Now, different guys were playing in the second half, and the bunch of guys who aren't even going to make this team were the ones playing in that second half. So it's not like I take much comfort or solace in it. I don't think the tackling as a whole throughout camp has been good. I haven't seen any decent amount of tackling in the preseason, and I suspect it's going to be ugly early on in the season as well. Vegas has Packers at 9 total wins. If you had to bet your left pinky toe on the over or the under, well, I said earlier, when I said it in the summer, they were at 9.5, and I said give me the under. So if it's at 9, give me the push. I think 9 is spot on for this team. Carson making the 53 over Dexter. There's a good chance unless they want to keep 4 running backs. We'll see. LaFleur did say Carson's ahead in every aspect, especially in pass protection. You got to keep 12 healthy. Is the Raiders safety going to get fined for the hit? I would think so. Very little push by the backup D-line last night. Well, there's very little push. There's very little. You're looking at guys like future gym teachers of America, so to speak. A lot of these guys that you saw throughout the course of the last night, especially in the second half, they're not going to make the team. Probably not going to be on an NFL team. So I thought Dean Lancaster played well till he got hurt. I thought Montravius Adams played an outstanding game. He was playing like his hair was on fire. So those guys are going to be on the team, and I thought they played well. Did we hear about Bolton or Gary? No, nothing. Do you think we will pursue or trade for a veteran linebacker, or is the Packers front office okay with who they have? Oh, I think they'll get somebody. I got to imagine either through waivers and or a trade, but they will definitely fortify the inside linebacker position now. They have to. Just to get through practice, let alone the final preseason game, maybe into the season. What's worse in preseason, the games or fan overreactions? Yes. All right, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much, everybody. Sorry if I couldn't get to your question, but thank you so much to everybody who jumps on board each and every day. Whenever we're doing anything here at Cheesehead TV, make sure you're checking cheeseheadtv.com for all the latest on the green and gold. I'll be back Monday with Packers Daily. Make sure you're checking out all of our stuff, both at the website, here on YouTube, Facebook, wherever your social media preferences. We're there. We're devoted to you guys, Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.